This is the Actor Factor podcast with Brad Ashton and Diego Garcia. Today's guest is actor Lew Temple.
I'm Brad Ashton.
I'm Diego Garcia.
And this is the Actor Factor. Diego.
Hello, buddy.
Man, it's another beautiful day, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's good to be alive. Good to be in California.
Cannot complain.
Yeah, if you did, nobody would care, right? Hey, man, like I always say, these are not, anything we talk about is not wise words of wisdom. They're just words.
That's right.
You can go out there and make something of yourself. Don't do it the way we do it because our way might not be good for you.
Yeah, it may not be good for you. It is a way that works maybe for us.
Yeah.
And it actually could work for you, but you gotta have that, you gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you're going after. Perfect example.
I wanted to bring it up.
Perfect example. Me. Booking commercials as opposed to not booking commercials and TV. There's so many different ways to go after both.
Yeah.
Information that I give may not work for everyone, but we're just sharing our stories, right? We're sharing our stories, how we got here, what we're doing, and what we're after.
You remember when I told you I had that commercial audition that I don't do commercials.
You booked it.
No, I didn't even get a call back. Which is what I'm saying.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, don't do what we do. Maybe.
Yeah.
You got to try your own way. I don't know. Maybe they didn't like the video. I didn't get any feedback from my agent either, but it's all good. Moving on to the next thing.
That's part of it, though.
Yeah.
You got to accept the
take the losses.
non-calls, right? That's what I think we always say. You have to do it and forget it and move on. But
oh, man, yeah, I forgot about it. That's for sure. I'm not even talking about it right now. No, it was good fun. It was another good experience. But you got to have thick skin in this industry, and I think it's what people really need to understand. You get rejected more than you get accepted. That is for sure. So if you were not the cool kid in high school, this might be the thing for you. If you were the cool kid in high school, I don't know, brother.
Things change.
Things change. I was not the cool kid in high school is what I'm saying. Not at all. I was not prom king. I didn't do that
either. Although I felt like I knew everybody just because I was in sports, but I don't know if that made me a popular kid by any means.
Yeah, no. I feel like the sports kids were, they were the cool ones in high school, and
mainly the football players, right? Texas and football.
Well,
if you were in football, then
you're right. You were the heroes of the school for sure. Friday Night Lights, right? That is legit.
Yep.
You go to the high school football games.
Did you ever work on that show?
No, not yet.
No,
I haven't had the pleasure.
Not yet. Is it still going?
Click. Hey, if I had a computer or a phone that had the Siri on it that worked, I would. And I have both of those things, but it's not about Friday Night Lights right now and how I don't have an audition for that. It's about accepting defeat and then still getting up and coming out the next day with full force, full vigor, and full ambition. You just can't quit. You can't give up.
You can't get knocked down. You can't allow people to knock you down.
But if you get knocked down, then you get up
back
again.
Up again. That's right. Yeah.
Never gonna be down. I'll get knocked down.
I don't think we have the rights for that. I don't think you can sing that song.
I'll sing whenever I want. It's my body and I'll cry if I want to when we're getting sued. No, it's all good. It's all fantastic. But no, I like sharing these stories because you need to understand. I mean, look at me. It didn't dampen my spirits. It just showed me I need to try something different for a next approach for a commercial audition. And maybe next time I give my commercial audition to Diego, I have him film it all silent like, and then I turn it in. Then when they book it and I show up to set and they say, "What's up?" I say, "Surprise."
You know what? We should just do that one day and see what happens.
I don't think I would ever work again.
Or they'll be like, "We like what you're doing, guys, and we had to bring you in and talk about why you did this.
Why did you do that?
And you're both in our film."
That's fantastic. We're sitting here talking about fantastic things, and that was one negative. And as we're talking, literally, I'm getting a text from one of our graphic designers for logos and such, and he's just texting me right now, letting me know that he's got some finals that he wants us to approve, which is really exciting also. So,
yeah. Well, they'll be seeing it already.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah,
but for us,
well, they don't know which
we're looking forward to it.
We have so many logos coming out for things we're dropping constantly. So our logos change a little bit for posters and banners and things for the people. But is this thing on? That's all I want to say. Man, I'm really excited about today.
Did you have any auditions though yesterday, or something coming up today?
I don't have anything for today. Yesterday was kind of a down day, not down like depressing down day, but it wasn't. I didn't have any auditions or anything I had to tape for. It was kind of a nice reprieve. It allowed me to get out, and I ran around town. And I had some errands I needed to take care of, so it was really good to get out and breath of fresh air and get out of the studio, get out of the house. So how about you?
I had to squeeze in an in-person audition yesterday before a golf round.
Yeah.
And they're rare. I saw. Do you know the Bosco brothers?
I don't think
Dante Bosco. They're from the '80s. They're super famous family.
Okay.
He and I did like a Home Depot commercial years back. And,
Yeah.
And it's funny when going in live now, and you get to see all those buddies you've auditioned with for the last 20 years, and they have kids now. And I was just talking to a friend of mine just yesterday, and he goes, "So how's it going?" He goes, "It's been an interesting time getting older and getting placed in as a husband or a father, right? They start placing you with kids." And I'm like, yeah, it's a really strange feeling, especially if you don't have kids. But then when you go to an audition and they're looking at the kids first. Yeah. And if the kids don't match, if you don't match, a look, a likeliness to the kids, then you're not, the adult doesn't get the spot. It's revolved around getting the right kids.
That's
these
right.
days.
That's interesting.
And he said to me, and I'm still trying to, book that one dad role. And I'm like, interesting, because I'm not a dad and I've booked a handful already. And you are a dad. So what does that say about this business?
Yeah. You never know.
But it was fun. It was, I guess I could say what it was, because there were so many. I didn't have to sign anything for it, but I thought it was really funny. It was for Flamin' Hot. They have Flamin' Hot. They have Cheetos. They have Fritos. They have all that kind of stuff. So I guess Flamin' Hot has a thing. But the scenario in this thing is that Flamin' Hot has a university.
Oh.
So in the commercial, so it's like a lot of college things. Parents are seeing their daughter. They open up an envelope and they get accepted to Flamin' Hot University.
Yeah.
Except for now you start looking at all the logos and everything says F-U. So that's the joke. It's like F-U, F-U. Give you an F, give you U. It's like,
wow. So how did you feel? How do you feel?
It's super cheesy. I felt like I overacted.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things you can hear people auditioning through the rooms, and I haven't done that in a while, right? Where you kind of like people are yelling and screaming, and then all of a sudden you're in the room and you're yelling and screaming, and you're wondering, should I have yelled and screamed during this moment?
It was an excitable commercial, right?
Everyone seemed to be making the same choices, I guess.
Well, I feel confident your choice was great. And speaking of Flamin' Hot, we have an amazing guest today that we need to get to, and because he's smoking hot. And he's exciting, and he's actually on fire. He started way back in the day, and he's coming up.
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right, here we go.
You're listening to The Actor Factor.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Oh, okay, we are so excited. We got our guest here with us today. It is the amazing Lew Temple, and we've got stories. Lew, I can't wait to talk to you, but welcome to the show.
Well, thanks so much, Brad, Diego. It's so nice to be here on Actor Factor. That's such a great name.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm honored to be a guest today because I know the both of you, so it's just cool catching up. But
I was going to say the same thing. I can't wait to talk about. We have so much history between us. Houston, Texas is a bit. Well, we can talk about that.
We'll just start right there. Is that where you began, Lew? Where did your passion for acting? Oh, and by the way, Lew Temple's got over 200 credits on IMDb. This guy's done everything from good guy to bad guy to bad guy to bad guy to crazy guy to. He's done stuff you can't even imagine, man.
Working with Rob Zombie.
Oh yeah, well, can't wait to get into that.
So let me do this before we get too much into it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one question to start it all off. Is what are you working on right now? Are you about to audition? Have you come off set? What's going on in Lew Temple's world right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know that the foundation of your podcast is about being creative, and I was being creative this past week, actually back in Texas on a pilot for a series that Hulu is interested, or at least in seeing. So these pilots now, contrary to what they used to be, are more of a pitch process or a proof of concept, as they're called. And I'm sure everybody understands that. But we're going to go out and build this episode and show you what our plan is to do. Would you be interested in buying it? And so I just did one of these for some people that I know marginally up in the panhandle of Texas, no less, which is a very strange place. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
If you guys have been up there very much, but the answer to that is not very much. Nobody has. And we always call it the level land or level landers. Those are people that wagon wheels broke and they just never got further into Texas, but it's flat up that way. It's kind of plains. It's really windy, really cold this time of year, so it's bizarre. So the idea of this series called Panhandle Stories is that strange, esoteric activity and thought process go on there, not unlike down south in Marfa or Terlingua or Alpine, where all the artist communities are. And so that's the pitch, maybe a stretch. And so I just came back off of that. But what really interested me was that they asked me to write an episode for it, which I just finished yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
So I knocked out a 40-page episode, which was really fun. And that is called High in Plainview, about growing marijuana up there in the sorghum fields.
Well, you know what? I don't. If you want me to read your episode and see if the token white guy is right for me, I'll be happy to do that. That is, hey man, congratulations! How cool!
Are you a writer? Also, have you written other projects, Lew?
Yeah, I think like any of us, we recognize that, and this comes from experience, as you well know. Most of you are very experienced, and so you understand that at some point, there's a creative process that's not being exercised by just waiting for the audition or the obligatory meeting or script from somebody else to be presented to you. So you do need to go and build something. It starts, the idea, I think, starts building something for yourself, but then you start recognizing I just want to build something, and maybe it's way cooler to build something for a brother piece for Brad and Diego, for instance, and I'd like to put those words on paper, and I know that they'll bring something to their work that I don't even recognize on paper, and so that gets to be really exciting. Or I'm going to push them this way and see how they respond in the form of writing. And of course, being somebody that performs and works a lot with dialogue, I'm dialogue driven. So my whole impetus is to give a character a different voice. Like, so if I've got 10 in this piece, they all speak differently, and with different prepositions, different inflections. I just really try to messy up the dialogue to make it like we are. You speak different than I do, and so that makes it fun for me. So getting back, long answer to your short question, yeah, I do. I love writing, and I think we all, because we read so much, I think we become decent writers. When you're reading good material, you're going to write better and perform better, in my opinion. If you're doing Shakespeare or Mamet or Tennessee Williams, your general work is just going to be better. So
sure, and
that's why I'm always impressed at the writing stage. So that's an answer to your creative question. That's what I'm coming off of yesterday, and I'm really excited about it. So it's a presentation, and whether or not they bite, it's something in my toolbox to share maybe somewhere else.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and writing is a fun thing to do. Absolutely, if you get the opportunity to do it, because it's another way to storytell. You get another venue outlet of storytelling, you know? And
absolutely. And that's at the end of the day, again, speaking to experience. And I can't, you know, it's only because I'm so experienced, which means that that's just a coward's way of saying I'm old. and that I recognize, it's all about Once Upon a Time. It's all about They Lived Happily Ever After, and then something in the middle. And it's really not about me. As much as I want it to be, and as much as I've spent my whole career trying to make it, finally you get around to becoming a spoke in the wheel that is serving the story. And so that if I could have come upon that a little sooner and had peace with that or made nice with that, like, no, I'm going to go choose some scenery so I can stand out and somebody will see it and go, we need that guy for something else. Which, believe me, I did. And I think it's natural. That's that ego in all of us, the actor ego.
Sure.
And, but I give credit to this generation because they're able to kind of do both. They're really good based on the technology of TikTok, of Snapchat, YouTube, technological storytelling. And I think because they get to do it so much, remember, Diego, we used to do these short films. And that was huge. And basically now a TikTok is a short film, and they can do that every hour if they want, this generation.
Yeah.
And they're really good at it. So I think the ego process is dimmed down. They're not so hungry to look at me in one form. And then in the social media and the confines of course, how many likes, how many followers do I have? Am I a social influencer? Of course, that ego is heightened more than we ever understood it could be. So,
are these famous TikTokers and YouTubers infringing in the film pool or TV industry? Yeah. You know, back in the day, you were in back in the day, you were in a commercial and you did several, and then all of a sudden maybe you got a TV job out of it, or even a film.
Yeah.
And that's changed.
You were noticed very specifically. And, we put together things. We do the math in our heads. But oftentimes I've come to find out that the math was wrong. So, for instance, like a great actor who he's a very similar to you, Diego, Eric Balfour. I always thought he was discovered on this crazy gum commercial where he played the devil, so to speak.
Yes.
And we always felt like that. But then when I got to know him, he'd been kicking, commercials were a means to an end, and he'd been kicking it out, auditioning, and finally for 6 Feet Under, that one landed. Okay, so it wasn't like he was seen in that commercial and then he got hired for this great job on 6 Feet Under, and then the rest is history. But that's the way we need to compartmentalize it, and our brains need to associate it, and that's just comparison, which is a really hard thing not to do, but it's not a helpful thing to do in the least. So anyone that's out there, again, I think the generation that's here now has less woes with the types of things my generation has. So, and one of the reasons is a little bit to pick up on what you said, Diego, was that change is happening so rapidly in today's arena, where I think when you and I were starting, change happened a little more gradually, if I can use that word. And so movies stayed out for like 3 or 4 weeks, unless they were really terrible. But just basic movies. Movies were out on, and so there were 3 or 4 weeks to see a movie and see somebody in a movie. Today, it's like you binge watch something and it's on to the next. And
right.
Everybody's okay with that. The idea of grinding away, I think, is less real than it was. We've got a lot of young players that make their marks very rapidly, very quickly, very efficiently, very capably. And used to be, you'd never get a look at those types of opportunities without a certain level of credits or a certain level of experience or, that type of stuff. We say that and someone will go, what about James Dean? Where did he come from? Well, he was in class, but so
we spoke to a producer the other day and a former show, and he was actually telling us, you'll have people who are actually producers on a feature film, and they'll be a bad guy, they'll be a right-hand man to the right-hand man's right-hand man, and they just because they're like, I'll give you this money, but put me in the scene, and so if you're watching a movie or something, you see some random guy like, who the hell is he? He just kind of stands out like, well, he was one of the co-producers, kind of a thing. I'm not.
Yeah,
it's you get that.
There's an element of that we can kind of compartmentalize that in the politics. We can, in the opportunity, certainly at the independent level. Again, just like writing something, somebody's taking. I'll come in and produce as long as I get a chance to do an interesting role and kick my career down the road a little bit farther than it is. We run into that. Certainly, we've all lost roles to the best friend of somebody that's financing the movie, and oftentimes that doesn't serve well. It's really interesting. I'm digressing so much, and I apologize, but to a point, I did a movie where the lead, who was Christina Ricci, by the way, who's fantastic, and she had all the heavy lifting to do, and all the scenes were on her, and all the movie was on her. And this is a movie called Monstrous. And interestingly, just very candidly, I had spoke with the producers about kind of serving her with help, supporting cast, as opposed to going for, day labor, so bring in some craftsmen as opposed to going to Home Depot and hiring people, to help move some furniture.
Sure.
And so they did not, because they could not. They could not. They couldn't afford because of the. They actually tried, and they just couldn't afford the support that I felt was required for Christina. And it shows in the movie. She's working her ass off in every scene, trying to hold it up, trying to balance. Nobody that is in scenes with her, including myself, serve her. And it's just unfortunate. She does a great job. No one else does. And the movie is less than what it could have been on her behalf. So I think, to your point
what a bummer
about hiring, I think there is an element where you think it's okay. We could just get somebody in that place.
Sure.
It doesn't surprise either of you that somebody is Johnny on the spot. I mean, dang, sometimes it's a friggin' grip, or sometimes, and it can be useful to get you through the day, but at the end, it's not really going to serve your storytelling. So,
sure.
It's really interesting or really weird. So sometimes I think about that with musicians. No offense, Diego, you're an actor always and a musician as well.
Yeah.
You're a double threat. But, somewhere, and it works out pretty good.
Yes.
In most instances.
At the end of the day, you're trying to bake the most delicious pie, and you got to have the best ingredients for that pie. If you have crappy ingredients, the pie's going to suck, and who's going to want to eat that pie?
Well, sadly, we're at a stage where, everyone's just eating and pooping, so nobody's really, I don't think anyone's tasting, and we get right down to it. So taste is a huge word. Sometimes I mask it in tone, like I'll read a script and I'll go, the tone of this movie is all over the place, and is this a dark comedy? Is this a full-on comedy? Is this a juvenile comedy? Or is this, because in 20 pages, you've kind of hit all of those marks. And that scares somebody reading, like, you don't know what you're doing. You're kind of going for a fart joke here and a dramatic piece of prose there and trying to appeal to everybody. And we all know that that's going to end up just being a, really weak, soft storytelling. So I don't know. I mean, I always go into it very optimistically. I read scripts. Tell me if you guys do this. I read scripts with a really open imagination, and it's never the story that gets made. So I'll read a script and just be so moved and amazed and just see it in my head, and then I'll see the movie because I didn't get hired to do it. And this is back when they used to send scripts and you could read them. Water for Elephants was a key one, which was a really good book, and it was developed into a script and then made into a movie. And Lawrence, somebody directed it, and sometimes it's impossible to pull that stuff off. But on the page, it was amazing. And then when I saw it, I was like, wah, wah, wah. I suppose it gets to be huge. But sometimes there's a script you don't see the amazing, and those are really incredible films. I didn't see
Francis
on
Lawrence.
Waitress, this movie I did called Waitress.
Waitress, yes.
I didn't see it on the page. In fact, none of us did. Kerry Russell, Nathan Fillion, Jeremy Sisto, Cheryl Hines, Eddie Jemison, maybe Andy Griffith saw it. That was an incredible experience to observe him. But we didn't get the pie transitions and all this weird dark humor, and Adrienne Shelley, God rest her soul, absolutely did. And then when we saw it, we're like, oh, this is brilliant. Wow, okay. And so sometimes that catches you.
So do you think that's because, I'm the same way, and I have to agree with exactly what you said. Like, I'll read a script and I'm like, oh my God, I totally get it. I view my auditions as such, and I'm not saying they're cliche, but I understand how they get them. Like, I totally see this. I totally understand it. And then I'll do like what I call a cliche version. Then I'll do a me version of how I see the character, because, sometimes they don't want your character-y stuff. They want what they want. But, and then you go and see this thing you didn't book, and then you're like, oh, geez, that was nothing like what it was. And what the heck? So you think that's the director, or do you think that's like what causes that? It gets lost in translation.
Under the pressure, sitting in our offices, reading these scripts to make our day, and so we're allowed in this guilty pleasure to spend as much imagination on it as we can possibly, and that's the delight of it. But on the day you get on the set, that imagination factor has already been used. There's no place for it. We have to get coverage. We've got so many hours with this jib arm. We've got our heart out for so-and-so. We got to make our day. And I'm in a great mood, but no one else on this set is. And whatever. I just think there's so many incredible factors. And then on top of it all, it's just this resource factor. That's not always money, but I guess it is, because time is money and labor is money. So I suppose it all ends up that. But just the time element, I can remember when I started doing independent movies for 3 months on an indie. And now a 3-week indie is a huge shoot. We might do these things in 10 days now.
10 days, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the only way you get to do it. So people will go, oh no, I'm going to really take my time. Well, you could take as much time as you want, but you've got financing for 10 days. So
that's right.
How you make that work is how you run your household. Now, I just think those pressures. So we've made it so small. So technology has made it so available that to do it economically, I suppose, that we've trimmed down the imagination process of trying it. One of the things about being on The Walking Dead at my time on season 3, the show was still built as a storyline to Rick Grimes, Andrew Lincoln, the sheriff. All roads went through him. The show was built on how did it affect him. Like, it was very clear, and not in a narcissistic way. I mean, he's amazing. He was great.
He's phenomenal.
As giving an actor as I've ever worked with. Right.
I agree.
And so, but when the show started to spread out, when we started to get into, Alexandria and Hilltop and new storylines started to develop outside, even when the governor showed up, it started to infringe on the resource, starting with the writers. Oh, we've got to write new storylines.
Yeah.
There's actually a character who's going to have his own storyline that doesn't affect the sheriff.
Yeah.
It started, and then it really blew up. I mean, this Negan character's got his own storyline, and his 4 underlings have theirs, and all this Machiavellian aspect of storytelling is in place, and that diminished the time that was available for Andrew Lincoln as a great actor to try things. Like, we used to actually really spend a day trying things on set, believe it or not. And he was adamant about getting it right. And no, that's not it. That's not it. We got to go again. That just was off. And it was really interesting to watch him do that. And so I recognized as the show got bigger, Andrew's not getting the same, opportunity to do that. So I guess to answer your question, the resource of time and the appetite of getting things done and getting them presented is a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. And Andrew Lincoln is an amazing man. I was fortunate enough to be on that show, season 8. And man, working opposite him, I came home and I was telling everybody.
So your season 8, there was a lot going on.
There was so much going on. Jared, I was running around with Jared. That's the episode he got killed in when I was in that one. There was a whole lot going on, man. So much that I didn't even know. I just had to focus on what the hell I was doing because there was so many damn storylines. I didn't have time, man, And it seems kind of, you're coming into this really huge world that is so blown up at that point. And, but Andrew Lincoln, I came home was telling everybody that guy is phenomenal. Like when you get to work with somebody like that, opposite that person, you just see this energy they are emitting. And this guy was emotional and he was raw and real. And you're like, holy shit, acting class 101 right here.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was really impressive. And I feel like that is exactly where and why the show had success. And
he left after that.
I can talk about that show, but very specifically, as I'd say, I haven't had many experiences on shows that are like that, and so you wonder, well, why, and I'm not being critical of anyone else's show, but why did that show work? Well, I think it worked because they were well aware of what the process was, or what it needed to be. Like Andrew Lincoln, Sarah Wayne Callies, John Barenthal, at the very beginning started with Frank Darabont, and they're like, look, we're making a show about zombies. We can call them walkers, or we can call them the undead, or whatever, Walking Dead, whatever you want, but they're zombies.
Yeah.
There's not very much likelihood that we're going to get more than these 6 episodes. But if we do really good work on 6 episodes and no one's seen me do 6 episodes of anything before where I'm in front of the camera for 6 weeks, maybe we can get another job out of this, guys. So let's focus and do the best job we can as if we're doing Shakespeare in the Park. And that was least while I was there, that was kind of the baton that was passed to you when you showed up, and very excited to have you. We're so happy you're here. Come on, help us build and give us your ideas. We need the hand. And we're all pulling on the same side of the rope. So, and that starts at the writer's room, into producers, directors who were always just hired guns that came in. It was very interesting. I had Norman Reedus, who I had known here in town, you know, I would watch him and we would talk about it often, and he would plant seeds for his character, which you can do on episodic television. Mm-hmm. Film is so important in 106 pages to land every word, because that's all you got in those, 90 minutes, and then it's done. And so nothing's fat there. Or today there's not. I think it used to be. But today, and there's no scenes that you're just throwing away. But in episodic television, you don't have to land everything so hard this week. You can set yourself up, lay yourself up for a good putt for next week. Mm-hmm. Get on the green, have a good lie. And so Norman would do that with, he'd go over and pick up a crossbow, or he'd sit on a motorcycle like he knew what he was doing. That stuff's not in the script. And the writers would pick up, and then lo and behold, hey, motorcycle, crossbow, redneck, let's go there. That's what Norman was planting, and that was really informative to get to see that. And I enjoyed watching that, and then watching the theater of Andrew Lincoln, mm-hmm. and the efforts of how passionate everybody was on set to make it so good. So when I was on, Mikey was shooting, and we were double sliders, so the camera was always moving. We'd do these campfire scenes, which were all of us just sitting around talking, talking heads, but the cameras were moving. And I thought that was very ingenious in filmmaking, and instead of just having locked off shots, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So a lot was going on with that show that I think set up shows. And then they were able to observe evolution next door, just down the street, Stranger Things, and see, wow, they're building a young audience. We need to do that too. Mm-hmm. Get rid of all the old guys, bring in some young faces.
It's funny because with a show like Stranger Things, and the allure for it with me is, the nostalgia of the time we grew up in, the 70s through the 80s, when you're riding your bike and you have walkie-talkies, there's no instant communication, and, you got to remember, go down 3 street lights to the left and the first stop sign, make a right. It was different. So that kind of threw us back. And I think for the younger kids, they kind of see it, they can relate to this being younger kids. But yeah, how do you really reel people in? You got to be creative, right? And do something different.
I think that we understand better today marketing, and we recognize the powers that be that human behavior, essentially. Yeah. And so we
it's an algorithm.
And how to manipulate it. At some point, I'm a dad of a 15-year-old, so when somebody puts in front of my 15-year-old some really cool clothes and a sassy chick who is, emo, my daughter's going to pay attention, and whatever she's selling, I'm going to buy for my daughter. That's just the age-old thing, but it's like music. Diego, when I was growing up, you listened in the car what your folks played. Mine was country music, and that's just what I was going to listen to, because there was not a kid's option. And today there's like Kids Place Live. I can remember my daughter having her own station, or the Disney Channel, or whatever, music for kids. Yeah. Television for kids. And those used to just be Saturday morning cartoons. But now they're very specific to, from all ages. The YA thing is huge, the young adult thing, that it almost crosses over into mature audience, to be honest. I mean, we're just this side of all watching YA material. I mean, we're all on TikTok, right? Guessing not.
I'm not.
Not yet.
Not yet. I don't know. Should we?
Well, by the time we decide we will be, it'll go away. But like Instagram, I think that was probably built for kids, initially. I'm
Sure.
not sure, but
Yeah.
And then we all hopped on, and that's the way we'll be. So the kids don't really get their own thing too much. Their secret Red Ryder.
No, man.
Decoder pen.
Yeah, it's Adult Swim all the time. We get to get in the pool with the kids and the Band-Aids. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It helps monitor as well. We need to be in the know. We need to know exactly what kind of stuff is going on out there, because the world, I think, maybe it hasn't changed since we were kids, but we are just now, since we're all connected globally, we're really just aware of weird things that go on and different happenings, and we just need to be cautious.
I think as actors, you're better served to be better aware, and
knowledge is key.
Yeah, exactly. Like the things that I like to talk about with young actors, based again on experiences, and this will become an old trope at some point, but for a while it was kind of a buzzword or buzz statement, but know your brand.
Yeah.
Like, know your brand. And so, Diego, when we were coming up, Brad, probably you too, like, you were all things to all men. And in Houston, we were doing stuff, well, okay, need a basketball player. I could do that. Okay, well, we need a guy that drives a truck. I could do that. Yeah. Okay, well, and today I feel like we're much, much, much more specialized. We're much more specific. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not really going to be called in or sought after for all the things that I think I can do. And really that's a waste of my time, because most of that stuff I can't do. Mm-hmm. But what I can do, I do okay.
You do very well,
I should focus on that to do, like I've come to now be a believer in improve your strength, screw your weakness. Like, who came up with this work on your weakness? That must have been some basketball coach, but no one's ever going to hire you for your weakness. Your British accent sucks. No matter how much you improve it, you're probably not going to get hired to do a Brit.
That's right.
So
you're right.
Work on your Southern. Work on being better Texan. Work on your being what you do well. Be stronger at it. If you're going to the gym and you're squatting a lot, squat more.
Nice.
Don't worry about your bench press.
That's fantastic.
And so I think that's what plays in today's world. So then you should know what you do, and you should know your brand. I've been in casting where they've actually asked me, what color are you? Not as an ethnicity, but as a brand. Well, and have an answer. If somebody asks you that, have an answer. I'm a firebrand. I'm South, West, yellows and reds and oranges. That's my brand. I heat things up in the scene. Okay, well, we're just painting earth tones, kind of muted browns and greens here this episode. But we see next episode we got some color.
Yeah,
and maybe you fit for that. So you should know what your brand is. Know what your color.
I
start shit. I finish shit. I'm part of the shit. I'm a shit stirrer. Whatever that is. This is what I do. And then if you don't like that, change your brand. But that's going to take some work, and you better know how to do that.
That's
you don't just get to say, I want to be the boy next door.
Yeah.
You got to work at that. So I think that is something that I would have liked to have learned earlier.
I said the same thing. Yeah, I wish I would have known.
But it wasn't set up. The system wasn't designed at that point. The system was kind of take one, take all, and we'll find our guy. It always bewildered me who got cast or whatever, particularly in our region, Diego, and in Texas, that kind of that middle America guy, trustworthy guy, that was always the go-to.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a long time for advertising to break away from that.
100%. Hey, you're also, where'd you get your start? I already know the answer to that.
Oh, very funny story. Good story. I had a wonderful career in baseball. I've always been a baseball guy.
I was telling Brad about that. I was wondering if you would talk about that.
So I was a player all the way through, like you. And then I went out and went to college with baseball, and then went out and got a chance to play a little in the minor leagues. And at some point, when I'm all done playing, I'm invited at the organization I finished with, Houston, to coach, which is just babysitting in the minor leagues, picking up helmets. But then I got an opportunity to scout, which led me to front office, which led me to a really great job being kind of groomed to develop into an executive. And while in Houston with a good salary job, an expense account, a company car, and not a care in the world, I followed a girl with a nice pair of jeans into a building to chat her up for dinner plans. And ended up, this building was a theater. It was actor studio of Houston, Chris Wilson.
Chris Wilson studio. That's it. I remember it well.
And Brad, so you know, and so I saw what they were doing on stage, and I was like bewildered. I was, but also connected, and I was like, those right there, those are my people, and I can do that, and I couldn't necessarily do that. And, but I started to engage in learning how through like Stanley Zaroff, those workshops where I ultimately went up to Brooklyn College, Diego, and studied quite a little bit in, you know, basic acting studies and theater, of which was really kind of the request to do that. I mean, today that's still available and still a really good route, but there's so many other opportunities and routes to go outside of study to get you in the game. And so, Brad, you kind of initially in this conversation we're talking about, well, have the influencers kind of infringed on a hard-studied student that's put his time in, her time in studies? And yeah, for sure. But it takes all kinds, and all kinds are accepted. So you can't spend any time or energy and say, well, that, you know, that's not fair, or, you know, because no one's going to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I spent a lot of time in my career equating it, Diego, to like baseball. Like the back of my baseball card reads pretty good in the form of an acting credit sheet. But in casting, that really means very little.
Yeah.
It's what have you done for me lately? So I think you need to understand, like, here's the number one thing I wish had been presented to me, because I got kind of upside down on this, was that change is inevitable. Of course it is. Everything changes, but change is always happening, and you have to change, and you have to adapt.
That's right.
And you have to adjust and not take the change so personally. So all of a sudden, if it requires that you book a certain amount of jobs to earn your insurance, and that changes, that was going to happen. And you got to adjust to that. That just means you got to go book more jobs. Okay. It's sort of the who moved my cheese theory. You know, you can moan about it, or you can go find more cheese. And for most of us, that's what we have to do. We got to go make more money. And because nobody's going to listen to, but I've done all this, but I was a series regular, but I was a recurring guest. I done this many commercials. Why should I still have to audition? You know, all of those things you can talk to your therapist about, who may ultimately be your manager, or you think that. And I can promise you your agent's not going to listen to you maybe once about that.
That's right.
And then not take your calls anymore.
That's right.
And you can spend 5 years rattling your saber about the system not being right because it doesn't serve you. Or you can adapt into serving the system or the story.
There you
Just do what you do, and that's be an actor and serve the story.
That's right. That's right. Because like the world, it is bigger than us, or go out and just create.
Yeah.
If you want to be in control of every single thing, then go create your own project, get some people, make your project, do what you want the way you want.
I'll show you. I'll just go out and write something, and it'll be amazing. So the interesting things are, when we started, guys, television, it was there, but it certainly wasn't. None of us were looking to be on television when we came to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we weren't even looking to do independent films, I don't think, or we were looking to do Sundance accredited independents. But for the most part, we were looking to go out and do focus feature, studio released, Oscar-dominated movies and be a part of those.
That was the dream.
Yeah, and be an actor that was at least going to be in a movie that was recognized for its creativity, I suppose, or its art at the least. And then, technology happened. We didn't pay any attention to our brothers in the music industry, and technology just kept happening, and we just kept allowing it to. We didn't allow it. It was just going to happen. We weren't going to stop it. It's like a train. You're not going to stop it. We didn't adjust to it, and then lo and behold, here comes streaming, and that's after VHS, DVD, home box office, all these other axioms of entertainment to the point where we're at now, which is streaming. And it's not even really television anymore, right? It's your own in-house device service.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all three of us have to be on that, or in that arena. And it's never been clearer to me than it is right now. I see it and I recognize, that's what you have to do. And so all this I'm doing movies, and even on films today, unless you're a part of a tentpole, what we call these spandex films, you could be number 4 on an indie that might get a week out in the theaters, maybe gets a nomination. Even, you're going to get paid as number 4 on the call sheet, and maybe you'll get some play out of it. But somebody told me, very specifically me, it was Michael Rooker, and he said, no movie's going to change your life. It's just not going to happen. It's just nothing. And so maybe a movie is going to change Brad Pitt's life, Thelma and Louise, but that was a time and a place and a person, him for sure.
That's right.
And know your brand.
There you go. I love that.
Know your brand.
I love that. Know your brand. And I don't mean to cut you off on that. I think we're going to have to do a Temple of Lew ×2. We're going to have you back for a second episode.
Wow.
I would love to hear one last story though, because I have this one thing, because we do talk about the process on here.
Yes.
And just because Rob Zombie is such an amazing project to work on, can you run us by when you got your first audition? And
there was a script that I read, The Devil's Rejects, and it just opened my eyes like, oh my God, this is awful. I wasn't a horror guy growing up. I wasn't, I'd seen the basic obligatory horror films, maybe snuck in and saw Night of the Living Dead at some point, but I wasn't somebody that was a horror fanatic, had never done a horror film. This script starts off with some giant dragging a girl through the woods. I was like, this is mayhem. But the casting director knew me from Texas, Diego, Monica Mickelson, wonderful casting director, and had cast me in a movie in Texas called Serving Sarah, which I couldn't do because I got sick. Matthew Perry got sick, and I got sick.
That's right.
Fighting for my life. Probably Matthew Perry too, but his was drugs. Mine was leukemia.
Yep. Right.
Monica replaced me with Mike Judge of Beavis and Butthead fame, right? Yeah. And so, anyway, she remembered me and brought me in, and it was at Mary Bernou's casting office. And I remember sitting there for reading for Adam Banjo, and there was Jeremy Davies and Steve Zahn, both there.
Cool.
And I loved both those work. And I was like, shit, this is real. Why would these two guys read for something like this? You know, and anyway, then I went back. I went to South by Southwest, I think, for whatever reason. I'm in Texas, and Monica calls and says, hey, Rob really likes you, and this might happen. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And that was pretty, I didn't really think much about it. And Rob Zombie to me was White Zombie and just, kind of, rock and roll or even metal. And so then I get a call like 4 or 5 days later, and it's like, yeah, Rob's going to go with you. And I'm like, holy shit. So I called a friend of mine, Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins! Dude,
Walton.
That dude is badass.
Yeah, he had worked on House of a Thousand Corpses. And I said, Walton, I know you worked with Rob Zombie. I'm so nervous. He's going to hire me for this movie called The Devil's Rejects. I'm a good Christian boy from the South, and this guy is a devil worshiper. What am I going to do? And he laughed at me. and he said, oh, you're an idiot. He said, do yourself a favor. Take the job. It's going to be a good experience, and you're going to have an incredible opportunity. But more than that, you're going to meet Rob Zombie and have a friend for life, and that's the truth. And so when I got on set, Rob is about as far from his persona as you could be. He's very intent on his work with intensity. And so he knows what he wants, and he wants what he knows. It's not a lot of grab ass. He has fun on set, but it's a day's work for sure. When he directs you, he's kind of looking for performance because he is a performer and he knows performance, but it has to stay in the confines of what the scene is. So he'll dial you back a little bit, but he's always looking to make it unsafe. And when I say that, like, not physically, but kind of emotionally unsafe.
Yeah.
And
that's fun.
And they're just pushing that. So that's been really cool. And give him credit because he's just continued to grow as a storyteller.
Yes.
I think that's important. I love the idea that he uses us as an ensemble quite often, but he's evolving there too, which he's, transitioning that, so I didn't do the Munsters. Three from Hell, I think my character Adam Banjo didn't live, so I don't think I could be in there. Rob is a really smart guy, really smart businessman. I think he's a great storyteller. And then on the movie, that one in particular, so much lightning in a bottle. I attribute it to like these pros in the form of Sid Haig, who we lost, Bill Moseley, William Forsythe, Ken Foray, kind of that group of four with their experience. And there's a horror genre technique of acting that infringes on your personal space with just this strange lean into, just a real gradual lean into the camera that I noticed. And so when you start observing, you could see a lot. And that was that experience. And so it's been good. It's been good. But also too, I've watched Rob go from 30 days making that movie to 15 days making 31, for instance. So I've watched him get pushed around by the system and have his shoots get truncated where he doesn't get to take the time to develop love the stage. So even the big guys are experiencing it.
Well, and he still puts out badass films. So if you would have told me something was shot in like 15 days as opposed to 30, I wouldn't believe it because it seems like the quality's still there. And I know, you would like those extra days. And unfortunately,
they're making it happen.
Boner.
Yeah, somebody will tell, and so I also think he's really good at knowing his brand. He knows his audience. He makes his art for his audience, whether that's music, whether that's comic books, or whether that's music videos or his films. And he doesn't try to venture out and do something that is not what he does. So he's never going to be on set and go, well, the general public probably want to see it like this. Yeah. And he's really good at knowing his brand, and he holds tight to it. I say he stays small. Like Rob Zombie could have a studio deal and make movies for whomever. His brand is very attractive to studios, but he won't sell that brand out to the studio system.
That's great.
And be told how he's going to go about making a picture because the executives at this studio mandated. And so he's quite good at that, and give him credit for holding tight to his audience. He's a tastemaker that way.
There you go. Hell yeah.
Wow. Well, dude, we are completely just so fortunate to have you on this show. Thank you for sharing your stories and
both of you, because we have so much history and
the
idea. And you know, it's easy to talk to you guys because you've been there, done that. You know, you have and we forget too. Most of us, when we go to work, we're working for a younger generation. What I mean by that is there's a 20-year-old Jenna Ortega that's the lead of a show called Wednesday, and that's typically who we're working for. She's the lead, and they haven't had experiences of having to go into the rooms and audition. You know, one last thing, just practically, as working actors out there, we should all recognize there was a time and a place where you wanted to be on the list of 20 people, Diego, that was called in to read for that particular role.
Yep.
In your brand, just 20. There was 20.
Yeah.
Today there's 2,000 based on self-tape. Okay,
That's
so
true.
you better get okay and be aware that why am I not getting pinned or put on a veil, if that's even a term anymore, or booking. Well, there's a lot more options. There's a lot more deli meat to pick from than what there used to be. And so just practically recognize that, do the math. It doesn't help pay your bills, and it doesn't relieve whatever pressure you're putting on yourself to book, but you just got to be aware of it. Yeah. It's real.
Well, you said earlier, you got to accept the change and you got to be ready to move with it. And,
otherwise, there's a place for you over here. There's a place. It's interesting that it's not far from the SAG building. It's the La Brea Tar Pits, and that's where dinosaurs go.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so you could just hop right in there. That's a good place for you to go do your one-man show. And otherwise, we got to adjust, guys. We got to. And so I don't want to, burst anyone's bubbles, but it's going to keep changing. It's going to keep. I have no idea, but the more available you are for it, the better served you'll be. Plus, I think it makes it more fun. Yeah. And at some point it does have to be fun. I got the pleasure of working with Tom Hardy, and at one point he said, "Hey, mate, if it's not fun, what are we doing? And if it's not fun for you, how could it be fun for anyone watching you?" And so I think there's a lot to be said for that. So you still have to have fun. It's difficult when you're not working to make it fun, but go to Starbucks and write a script.
Boom. I love it. Hey, so
we're going to do it.
We'll let you get back to your day, and we truly appreciate having you.
Thanks for your time.
Maybe in the future, if you can.
Nice to talk to you guys. Both Brad, Diego, congratulations on the Actor Factor. I'm a big supporter of it, and we're all happy to be part of it. It's a good world, and we're part of it. So
amazing.
We appreciate you being here.
Well, we'll talk soon. We'll go have some coffee or a little lunch. Love to the family. And take care of yourself, buddy.
Okay. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Lou.
All right. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your day.
And happy holidays.
Yeah.
Hey, you too, man. Be safe out there.
Do that.
Yes.
All right.
See you, brother.
Take care.
See ya.
You're listening to The Actor Factor.
What an epic guy. I mean, I wish we had more hours in the day. I swear, because you could talk forever. He's a plethora of information.
I know. I had a couple bullet points, and we weren't getting to them because there was so much greatness.
Yeah.
But there was like a couple things I was like, I gotta hear about this, and I gotta know about this, and
man, stories for days. It would be epic if he could come back for a second time. We get him down the road somewhere, because there are so many more questions I'm sure listeners would even have, and like, oh, why didn't you ask this? And I'm telling you, the hour goes by so quick, so quick, and we didn't even really get to catch up on other things. I mean, there's I think we're gonna have to just get him back. Yeah, okay.
We're just gonna get him back, guys.
Yeah, we'll get him back because I know you have questions, as do I. But man, all right. Well, mind blown.
Learned a lot.
And listen to all this because I like to re-listen to these podcasts and these episodes because the information it goes past my mind and I'm like, hold on a second, what did we talk about?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there was a lot there, and
he's such a nice guy.
Super
you see
humble.
Why he works. People love him, man.
And he knows his brand, right? I think that's the lesson learned. Learn your brand, guys.
Yeah, know who you are.
I'm a commercial actor. He's a TV film actor. I want to be a TV film actor, but
well, and I don't want to be
a brand.
No, man, you got to know your brand. I'm not doing anything in the current with that, so it's all good. I'm a podcast host.
Same,
and I love it. Man, I can't wait till we talk to more
best gig
fantastic
I've had,
people.
to be quite honest.
Man, I'm having the time of my life, and I hope it never ends.
Well, I'll see you on the next one.
I'll see you on the next one. This one's just ending for today. Have a good one, Diego.
You too, Brad. We'll see you guys.
This has been the Actor Factor Podcast with Brad Ashton and Diego Garcia.